Now, all this week, as Iran goes to the polls and the death toll in Syria mounts, we've been looking at the outpouring of violence across the Middle East. It's a conflict increasingly being seen as a war within Islam between the two branches of the faith, Sunnis and Shias, and it's threatening to inflame the whole region, not least Iran, where Jon Snow is tonight. John.
Thanks very much, Kathy. Well, good evening. Live from Iran on the eve of a crucial presidential election that just could conceivably see a reforming candidate steal victory from his hardline opponents. More on the election in just a moment. But whatever the result, the next president of Iran is not expected to produce any major policy shift on the country's support for Syria's president, Bashar Assad. Tonight, the UN said that the death toll in the two-year conflict there has reached 93,000 people, whilst admitting the real number could yet be higher than that. On the ground, fighting has intensified in the capital today. In Damascus itself, government forces continued their heavy bombardment in rebel strongholds in the east and south of the city. Damascus International Airport came under rebel rocket attack today, forcing several flights to be delayed. Now, the fighting has fired Sunni-Shiite tensions across the region, with Sunni-ruled nations such as Turkey, Saudi Arabia and Qatar backing the rebels. Jihadists and others from those countries have poured in to join the rebel fight. President Assad does have help from both the Russians and from this country, Iran. Lebanon's Shiite fighters Hezbollah are also playing a critical role in supporting Mr. Assad. Our foreign affairs correspondent, Jonathan Rugman, is in Lebanon's capital, Beirut, tonight. But Jonathan, we're wondering now, why is Lebanon itself now so vulnerable?
Because, John, it's run by a weak caretaker government in what is probably the most factionally divided country in the world. No stranger to civil war. The civil war here lasted 15 years, and the Lebanese army has completely failed to police the Syrian border. The question being asked in Britain, France and America is whether to arm Syria's rebels. But the question here in Lebanon is far more significant in many ways, and it is what to do to stop Syria's civil war from spreading to here. Now, Hezbollah, the Shia fighters armed and backed by Iran, where you are, have been travelling from Lebanon across the Syrian border. And largely Sunni rebels backed by the Gulf states have also been crossing this border. And all this is having a very dangerous blowback effect inside Lebanon itself. In a football stadium in the southern Lebanese city of Sidon, thousands of Sunnis are flying the Syrian rebel flag, the brothers and sisters of Syria's revolution. The boy band on stage sings a catchy political ditty. Syria, country of rebels, we are united in blood. It's a fun night out, but flags associated with Al-Qaeda and other jihadist groups are dotted amid the crowd. And age-old hatreds are resurfacing because of the involvement of local Shia Hezbollah fighters in the war next door. What is your message to Hezbollah?
Our message to Hezbollah is to keep our country out of the Syrian crisis, because a careful person puts out the fire in his neighbour's house to stop the fire from spreading to his own.
Maybe these jihadist banners are just teenage hijinks. Or maybe these will be the holy warriors who plunge Lebanon back into civil war.
Yes, no problem to fight.
You don't mind fighting another war?
No.
Against Hezbollah?
We are ready
to fight
to any war.
An hour up the coast, this is Hezbollah's Shia stronghold, the concrete jungle of South Beirut and the home of the Party of God. Armed and funded by Iran and one of the most notorious paramilitary organizations in the world. So controlling that every shot our cameraman takes must be pre-approved first. And what's striking is that Hezbollah's latest Shia martyrs did not die fighting Israel, but inside Syria. Hezbollah says it's still committed to fighting Israel, but it's now waging a war on another front, coming to the aid of President Assad of Syria, in what has become a sectarian conflict between different branches of the Islamic faith. Many Shia here apparently seeing the Syrian and Iranian regimes as their only defence against a Sunni jihadist invasion.
After we felt the danger coming so close to our country, it is better to defend ourselves before the arrival of the fire here. Whatever we do, we cannot be silent.
Haura Kreis, just 16, told me her father was killed fighting for Hezbollah last month against Saudi-style Salafists near the Syrian town of Qusayr. Do you know exactly what happened to your father?
No.
He was martyred in Syria defending religious places to stop the enemy from coming to Lebanon because there are Salafists there. Of course, we are against them.
Beirut is still rebuilding from a civil war which left well over 100,000 dead. And now dangerous sectarianism is back. On Sunday, a protester was shot and killed outside the Iranian embassy. The Saudi embassy has ordered all Saudi citizens to leave the country, while other Arab Gulf states have advised their nationals to stay away. The Lebanese army and police closed down the city centre to protect a demonstration against the Assad regime and Hezbollah. In the event, only a few hundred turned up, many of them Syrian refugees, fearing the conflict they've escaped will follow them here. Is this conflict now about Sunni versus Shia, and could it spread across the Middle East?
Sure, yes, sure. Because where we go, there's Muslim, there's Sunni and Shia here in Turkey, in Syria, in Iran, everywhere.
In Lebanon's second city, Tripoli, it's now open warfare. Supporters and opponents of the Syrian regime battling it out, with over 30 people killed in the last month. Clashes here are not new, but they've never been so violent. Even the front line is called Syria Street. On one side, a small Shia community swearing allegiance to Assad. On the other, a banner commemorating 3 local men who died fighting with Syrian rebels across the border. This place is a powder keg, and the army knows it. In the last week, the bullets have been flying in the city's ancient souk for the first time. Both sides pawns in a regional game. There's religious incitement, and it's all coming from Syria, says this shopkeeper. If Syria was stable, we would be as well. But Lebanon is inherently unstable. Its caretaker coalition government full of Hezbollah supporters. The Shia militants are the country's best armed and organised. And the son of a former president says they will be to blame for any wider war.
We believe that Hezbollah is attracting the Salafists and the jihadists to Lebanon by doing what Hezbollah is doing today in Syria. Hezbollah is bringing these people to enter the Lebanese soil.
The risk now is that the flashpoints multiply and the hotspots explode. That these young men posing with the Syrian rebel flag decide that this is not somebody else's conflict, but theirs. Jonathan Rugman, Channel 4 News, Lebanon.